Hello, today I will give a basic overview of the uses of each weapon type and battle brothers. Timestamps are in the description below. Spears give a 20% hit bonus with their main attack, making this an incredibly useful weapon for low attack value brothers, or tanks who have invested only in defensive stats. But this weapon will suffer a minus 50% damage debuff when facing some enemy types that are resistant to piercing attacks, such as skeletons, alps, and ifrits. The most common unique attack for the spear is Spear Wall, which attacks any enemy coming into range for half of the spear's damage and pushes them away. The sword gives a bonus to hit chance similar to the spear, with a plus 10% chance to hit with its main attack. However, unlike the spear, you have no reduced damage on enemies with pierce resistance. The most common unique attack for the sword is Riposte, which allows you to attack any enemy that fails a melee attack on the user, making this very good for high melee defense brothers. The Flails basic attack ignores the bonus defense granted by shields, and has a bonus chance to hit the head of an opponent, which can be useful for defeating early game brigands without head armor, and gathering body armor from fallen enemies. The most common secondary skill for Flails gives a 100% chance to hit the head if the attack lands, making this weapon extra useful for leaving body armor undamaged and lootable. The dagger is very light and costs no fatigue to equip, and has a very low fatigue cost when attacking. It is also possible to attack 3 times per turn with the dagger mastery perk, and without the use of situational perks such as berserk. The most common secondary attack bypasses armor, and does damage directly to health, but with a minus 15% chance to hit, which makes this weapon very strong for leaving enemy equipment at high durability and lootable, making gaining high tier equipment from enemies much more likely. Axes are a versatile weapon. They deal good damage against armor, and deal extra bonus damage to health on a strike to the head. Their secondary ability deals large amounts of damage to shields, and has a 100% chance to hit the shield. Destroying enemy shields can make defensive enemies easier to deal with. The mace has an average armor damage value, and a higher than average ignore armor bonus, making it good for hitting opponents' health directly through armor, and with each successful strike the target builds up an extra 10 fatigue, making it harder for some enemies to use as many actions per turn. The mace's secondary attack can stun a target, but it will deal 50% less damage than a standard attack, and without the mace mastery perk, it only has a 75% chance to stun an enemy. Cleavers apply a bleeding effect with their main attack, which causes damage for a few turns after the initial attack, making them very useful for fighting enemies with large health pools such as holds. The Cleaver's secondary ability has a bonus to damage dealt which scales with enemy health lost. If the strike is a killing blow, the enemy is also decapitated, which is useful for undead enemies, so they cannot rise from the dead again. Whips are in the same weapon category as Cleavers, but perform very differently. Whips can attack up to 3 tiles away, and apply bleed with their main attack. Because of their long reach, they can be useful for hitting far away enemies like ghosts, but are incredibly ineffective against armored targets. The main secondary ability for whips will disarm the targeted enemy for 1 turn, forcing them to attack with only their fists, which can make a dangerous opponent into a minor annoyance. Hammers, which visually resemble war picks, deal 200% more damage to armor, and always deal at least 10 damage to hit points, making them ideal for dealing with heavily armored opponents. Their most common secondary attack does even more damage to armor, potentially doing well over 100 armor damage in a single strike. One potential strategy is focusing on weapons which give you a bonus chance to hit in the early levels, and switching to your desired weapons once you gain higher attack values on your brothers. I would recommend early game brothers using spears and swords. This will give you the best chance of causing damage, because hitting and causing some damage is significantly better than missing and causing no damage. Once your brothers have higher attack values, try using weapons with high armor penetration, or high armor damage like maces, because you will most likely be facing enemies with larger amounts of armor such as ancient honor guard or orc warriors. But once you have good attack values, the ideal strategy is to pick your weapons based on what you are fighting. Spears for animals like dire wolves, maces and hammers for heavily armored enemies, cleavers for large beasts and zombies, and axes or flails for shielded enemies are what I recommend. While you will not always have the opportunity to perfectly counter your enemy, having a general understanding of your options will help you lead your warband to victory. I hope this helped, and thank you for watching.